Hi, this is Brittany Madison, and you're watching Dontaesboxingnation.
Okay, now blow.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brittany Madison, and you're watching Dontaesboxingnation. Do it one more time, I feel like I messed up.
All right. Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So the announcement that we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. It is finally official. Cotto versus Canelo will be on November 21st in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now get this. This is probably the funniest thing about this announcement. Now they're not fighting at the MGM Grand. They're fighting at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, right? Now what's so funny about this is, get this. Cotto and Canelo decided they didn't want to fight at the MGM Grand because Floyd Mayweather's banner is wrapped around the MGM Grand year round, right? So I guess they feel since they both got beat by Floyd Mayweather, they don't want to be walking into that damn arena or that casino being reminded that every single time they go to that building, I guess. But to me, it's really comical. It's almost like they're trying to boycott the MGM Grand because Floyd Mayweather's banner hangs on the outside of the building. Now, when it comes to Canelo, I mean, I don't understand this when it comes to Canelo or Cotto, but when it comes to Canelo, what I don't understand is Canelo is a man that got the tattoo of the date that him and Floyd Mayweather fought each other. He got that tatted on his body so that he could remember this epic fight that he had with Floyd Mayweather for the rest of his life. And his brothers did it too. They got this tattoo so that they can always remember Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather. So, I mean, if you don't have a problem with that tattoo on your body, I don't understand why you would have a problem seeing the banner of Floyd Mayweather on the building that you may be fighting in, right? But anyway, let's get into the actual fight. Finally, we have a fight that is worthy of pay-per-view, okay? This is a real pay-per-view fight. Golovkin versus Lemieux is not worthy of pay-per-view, in my opinion. All right, now Golovkin versus the winner of Canelo Cotto, that would be pay-per-view worthy. Golovkin versus Ward would be pay-per-view worthy, but not versus Lemieux. So let's go ahead and talk about this fight. This is one of the biggest fights of the year. I really look forward to watching it. A lot of people believe that Canelo is a heavy favorite in this fight. I beg to differ. I believe Cotto wins this fight, guys. I believe Cotto will dominate Canelo Alvarez, and I'll explain why, as I always do. But before I get into that, I will hedge that with Canelo having a chance of possibly knocking out Miguel Cotto. Because, of course, everyone has a puncher's chance. That's the only chance I give Canelo in this fight, is a puncher's chance. So let's go ahead and talk about why I believe Miguel Cotto will win this fight. You know, I think people look too deep into fighters getting either knocked down a couple times or getting stopped, getting knocked out like Miguel Cotto did. Now, sometimes you can base a future prediction on someone previously being knocked out because we know sometimes fighters are not the same. You know, James Kirkland, he was never the same after he got knocked out. Angulo was never the same after he got knocked out by James Kirkland, right? But some fighters, they get better. Some fighters are the same, like a Manny Pacquiao. You know, Manny Pacquiao's been knocked out multiple times, and he's gotten better after he's gotten knocked out, okay? In Miguel Cotto's case, I believe this is the same Miguel Cotto. I don't believe he's gotten any worse. I don't know if he's gotten any better, but I believe this is the closest Miguel Cotto we've seen to vintage, undefeated Miguel Cotto. Okay? I believe that Miguel Cotto is a much better fighter, a much smarter fighter than Canelo Alvarez. I believe he has better footwork. He has better defense. He has a better jab. And his power is probably on the same level of a Canelo Alvarez. Now, going back to the history of fighters getting hurt, knocked down, or knocked out, stopped, whatever you want to call it, I believe a lot of fans are looking at this fight as simple as that. You know, basically saying Canelo has never even been knocked down. I don't believe he's been knocked down before, but I believe fans are looking at it that way. Canelo's never been knocked down, obviously never been knocked out, never been stopped. And you have Miguel Cotto, who's been stopped twice. He's been staggered a couple times in his career. So that automatically means that Canelo Alvarez can, withstand more than Miguel Cotto. But I don't think it's that black and white, though. I don't. A lot of people are looking at the Margarito versus Cotto fight, and they're saying, hell, if Margarito can do what he did to Cotto, imagine what Canelo Alvarez can do to him. And then, of course, you have Manny Pacquiao, who stopped Miguel Cotto as well, right? Now, when it comes to Antonio Margarito and Manny Pacquiao, who both stopped Miguel Cotto, I believe when you compare those two fighters to Canelo Alvarez, there's something that Manny Pacquiao and Margarito have in common. And that is they are both volume punchers and apply persistent pressure, right? That is not Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, he fights in spurts. He gives opponents opportunities to think in the ring, think about what they're going to do next, strategize, right? Like I said, that's not what Margarito does. And not saying that Manny Pacquiao fights like Margarito, but we know that both of them throw a lot of punches is the point that I'm making. They don't usually take too many breaks during the fight. Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, he takes a lot of breaks, okay? And not only that, but Canelo Alvarez, he swings so hard, he telegraphs a lot of his punches. And you can't really telegraph too many of your punches when you're fighting against a real close, real elbows in, tight type of defense fighter like Miguel Cotto. His chin is always down. His hands are always up high. He doesn't really leave himself open for these wide hooks and uppercuts that Canelo Alvarez throws. In fact, Canelo throwing those wide hooks and uppercuts might actually leave him open for one of them real short check hooks or inside hooks that Miguel Cotto throws. In a certain sense, not just because this is Puerto Rico versus Mexico, but it reminds me of the Trinidad versus Fernando Vargas fight. And the only reason it does, not because of the styles, but because of the fact that the Puerto Rican fighter, Felix Trinidad, he had a reputation of constantly being knocked down, right? But on top of him being knocked down, he had more of the experience. And a lot of people, they focus mainly on the fact that at the time, Fernando Vargas, he had never been knocked down before. Never been knocked down, and he's fighting against a guy who gets knocked down all the time. That's what they were basing a lot of their predictions on, right? But we seen what happened in that fight. We seen Fernando Vargas, who had never been knocked down before, all of a sudden get knocked down twice in the first round and eventually knocked out in the 12th round. What that tells you is anyone can be knocked down. Anyone can be knocked out. It does not matter how great of a chin you have. I remember Diego Chico Corrales at the time when he was undefeated. He arguably had the best chin in boxing at the time. All of a sudden he fights against Floyd Mayweather and he gets knocked down about 6 times, and he had never come close to being knocked down. Keep in mind, he had just fought the undefeated champion, who was actually really good at the time, Robert Garcia. And Robert Garcia, who was a very good puncher, hit Corrales with everything in the book, and Corrales just kept coming forward. Okay? So it just goes to show you guys, anyone can be knocked down. It doesn't matter how great of a chin you have. Not only that, but a person can also be knocked down by a person who doesn't have all the power in the world. So with that being said, I believe we might even see Canelo Alvarez on a canvas in this fight. It's that type of fight. And I know for some of you fans who say, well, look at what Austin Trout did to Cotto. If Austin Trout could do that to Cotto, imagine what Canelo Alvarez would do. Those are total different fighters. First of all, Austin Trout is much taller. He's a southpaw, and he has a much more slicker style than a Canelo Alvarez. Styles make fights. Canelo Alvarez is far more predictable than Austin Trout. Outside of Canelo Alvarez's power, which it could be possible that he's stronger than Cotto, maybe they have the same power, or maybe Canelo is stronger. But outside of his power, like I said, I don't see him doing anything better than Cotto. Cotto is a better boxer. I believe Cotto's a better counterpuncher. I believe Cotto is even better on the inside. And once again, just because Cotto has been stopped before, I don't think that necessarily means that Canelo has a better chin. If you guys have followed Canelo Alvarez's career, then you know that Canelo was rocked and he was hurt badly in the first round by Miguel Cotto's brother, Jose Cotto, who wasn't near as good as Miguel Cotto is even in this stage of his career. Okay? So I'll be talking probably a lot more about this fight, but for now, that's my take on the fight. I'm on to the next one.